Hello, this is René Haverman with Farm Future News, podcast 5. Today I like to talk with you about planning and especially about how much can I produce with a very limited budget. Do we produce more as we reasonably can produce with our budget? I've seen in Africa, working in Africa for about 35 years, I've seen many farmers that produce far more as their budget could allow. And what you see then is instead of that your crop is getting sufficient fertilizer and pest management, you cut from everything a little bit and nothing has sufficient. With the result, you better could have done nothing instead of too little. Too little input is far more costly as doing nothing. And the chance that if you do too little, still earn sufficient is not very big. It's about, if you calculate that, it's about 15%. With other words, 85% chance that you fail. What you do? I always advise farmers to have at least a contingency reserve of at least 10 to 15% in order to be able to deal with circumstances that you did not expect. You better downscale your farm and produce based on optimum good farm practices as to grow crops with too little inputs. With animals, we have a bit the same, but I'm a little bit even stronger on that. Feeding cows, feeding pigs, feeding chicken, too little, I consider it a crime. I see so often cows and pigs, they are so skinny. The bones break through, and then they are wondering why do they not grow. Please, if you start this kind of production, make sure you got to have sufficient budget to feed them throughout the period that you want to bring them to a fatting stage and sell them. Or if you breed a, a cow or a pig that is in hungry stress, will not breed or will give out offspring that is substantially lower in its capacity to produce and to grow quick. So you've got to understand there is a far better situation that if you that you downscale your farm in order to bring it back to the available budget and leave the land what you not use or the animals that you cannot purchase, leave them outside your farm. Make sure you produce to the optimum of your budget. Today, we also want to talk about how to construct a simple greenhouse, a tunnel. Many people think it is very difficult to get and to construct a reliable caterpillar tunnel. But I want to show you that it is quite simple. One of the most important thing is the bows and how to make the bows in order to have a strong tunnel. I'll show you this in the next video.
Nobody's going to recognize what it is, am I right? Nobody. So how we used to bend, the very first tunnel that we put up, we didn't have a trampoline, but we had a tree, and I'm not pulling a horrible sign, guys. We had a tree with a fork, and we'd put the pipe in the fork, and we'd walk the pipe around the fork and actually bend it piece by piece. But then you have these like little straight bends in the pipe. It didn't look that great, but it worked. And our very first tunnel, we actually used a fork tree to actually bend the pipe. And that, it worked a treat, and it allowed us to put our first tunnel up. Our first tunnel was, like I said, we used B-grade steel, and the steel actually had a cut down the center, or a joint, because this is not extruded as a round pipe, it's a flat pipe that's rolled and then welded. So we got the pipe that they didn't weld properly, or it was Monday welding or something along those lines. Cool. So what you need to do when you're looking at a tunnel, the first 1 meter of the tunnel needs to be straight. So you don't want it to be curved all the way around to the bottom. So what we would do is we would mark 1 meter off. So you take 1 meter. Cokie? No Coke here, that's fine, don't worry. Okay, so push it through. Go. That's fine.
Micrometers mic, eh?
Hey?
The micrometers mic.
There we go, hey? Okay, so this is 7.2 meters. And I really like the 7.2 meter length, because that extra 100 mils on either side actually makes a dramatic difference in the height of the tunnel. So we're going to do the exact same thing again. Okay, up a bit. Come. Okay, up. Come. Okay, down a bit. Okay, come. Go down a bit. Down. Okay, go. One more. A little bit more. That's it. Okay. Let go. Okay, pull it straight out. Cool. Straight away. Hey? Sorry, hold there. Do I need to say anything? Okay. So this...
It gives you a meter in elevation.
Yeah. So this is the difference between a 6 meter and a 7. This is 7.2. But the original tunnels that side are all 7 meters long. Yes, ma'am.
Are you putting it on a spike in the ground?
Yes, I'll show that to you now. Okay, so it's a case of, if you try and save the money on a 6 meter length of pipe, that is going to be the difference. And I think, let's get the 6 meter up and put it inside so we can actually see the difference. Happy, put your foot over here. Come in. So to get the height over here, you actually lose growing space as well. All right. Cool, guys. Let's go and look at the tunnels. Can you guys see that this is not a major technical thing? You just need a little bit of skill. Maybe you mess up a couple of pipes, but you know what? You'll learn very quickly. Okay, guys, what I want you to do is look down the side over here. You'll see that this side over here has been flattened out, and it's been flattened out because of the wind. This is not flattened out because we didn't bend it properly. It's been flattened out because of the wind. If you go from this tunnel and you go to the next tunnel and you look down the next tunnel, you'll see that the frames are still perfect because this tunnel's taken the brunt of the damage. But the tunnel is not damaged. We can still work inside this tunnel, and this plastic has been on here for 6 years, at least 6 years. Cool, it's only been replaced once, and it was replaced because we had fire damage. Excellent. Any questions, guys? Yes, sir.
What do you use to fix the plastic
To the netting. I will cover that now because that's very important.
How long are these tunnels?
These tunnels are 30 meters long. It's the maximum length I recommend with a polytunnel. If you go over 30 meters, you are going to have heat problems. We're going to allow, it says do not enter on here. We're going to allow you guys in. It's not really a problem. Walk to the center of the tunnel. Feel the heat in the tunnel. You can walk out the bottom and come back up. This over here, is it closed? Oh, okay. Well, you can go into the first 4 tunnels. It's not a problem. This wire over here is the reason why you can't mechanize these tunnels. Because what's going to happen is you can't get anything inside here, and I guarantee one of you are going to go like this. It's guaranteed. And we'll laugh at you. Because it's going to be funny. Okay, just don't hurt yourselves, please. It's staked. It's connected, so this frame over here is connected to that Y standard over there. All of the other frames are loose. There is a wire running down here that connects it. The wire is just to help for spacing. The wire is not really support. What I'm going to do is, there's a couple of guys, let's see how many we can fit into the tunnel. Come inside. You'll see yourselves on YouTube. Okay, guys, so for you to understand, and let me just straighten this. You can see, yeah, pull. Okay, so if you take your hand and you put your hand between the plastic and the steel, you can feel how tight this plastic is. There is no give. Cool, so I want you to have a good watch at what I'm doing. I weigh about 100 and something. Okay, and I wasn't playing, I was throwing my weight at it. Okay, this is the reason why this tunnel actually stands. If you look down the tunnel, you can actually see the tunnel looks like a wave. Okay, and the reason why it looks like a wave is the wind has been so strong here that it's actually bent the steel into a wave. If you go and look in the next tunnel, it'll be perfectly round. How warm is it in here, guys? Hey, when you walked in, it was nice. It's starting to get uncomfortable, hey?
And what's the interval in between this?
2 meters.
2 meters.
2 meters. So you need 16 of these pipes for a 30-meter tunnel. For a 10-meter tunnel, you'd need 6. For a 20-meter tunnel, you'd need 11. Cool. So the question is, how do we join the plastic to the net? So the reason why we have net at the bottom and plastic at the top, the plastic keeps the rain off the crop, so we have less disease pressure. The net at the bottom allows air to come in along the length of the tunnel, and then the air moves out on either side. It helps to keep the tunnel cool. This is joined with a stapler. We have an industrial stapler. So we join the netting to the plastic with an industrial stapler. We then put the plastic onto the frame, and we have a team of ladies that uses baling twine and a handmade needle. We take a piece of blow dart, sharpen the blow dart, drill a hole in the end, we'll flatten the other end, drill a hole in, make it into a big needle, and we will sew the netting to the plastic. And if you sew the netting to the plastic, it will not fail. It will not fail on that joint. If you don't sew it, it will fail. Excellent, guys. Any questions?
Don't put the netting, will it be too hot, obviously?
If you don't put the netting, it'll be too hot. The netting is buried under the soil, so there is 3 meters of netting on either side.
2 meters almost in the ground.
2 meters almost in the ground. We dig about 500 mils down, and then we line the netting in, and whatever's left over is put on top, and it's covered with soil. If you don't bury the netting, or if you don't bury the plastic, you'll be fetching it at your neighbor's property. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
The steel frames, are they just on top of the soil?
Oh, yes. I said I'd answer that question. So, what we do, and I'll show you over here. So, we have about a 300 piece of 10 mil round bar. We have a 150 mil piece of whatever 30 mil wide flat bar. We drill a 10 or a 10.5 mil hole into the flat bar, put the round bar into the flat bar, we leave 100 mils on top, and we knock that whole thing. That flat bar, if you feel at the bottom of the pipe, you'll feel the flat bar, but this pipe is loose. So the pipe is loose.
Is that
So what
important to
anchors
have
it?
that play?
No, it just helps.
Just the way it is.
So the reason why we have the flat plate, you don't have to put the flat plate. You can have the peg directly in the soil. The reason why we have the flat plate underneath the plastic is that this pole sits on the flat plate. When it gets really wet and the ground gets soft, the pipes don't sink into the ground. Okay, that's the only reason why we have the flat plate there. Hey, Aubrey.
I actually meant the play on the rod. Do you
Oh
need
no.
play?
So if you look at how tight the plastic is, the play is irrelevant. Okay? If your plastic is not tight, what's going to happen is the play that's given there will lead to the failure of the tunnel. You want this tunnel to be as tight as possible. The tighter this tunnel, and what we like to do is we like to put the plastic on a warm day. Because then what happens is the plastic expands, and while they're filling the trenches in, we have a team of guys, and their job is just to make it as tight as possible. So that when it's hot, today's a pretty warm day, inside here it's quite warm, this plastic is tight. In the middle of summer, it's still actually quite tight. Yes, ma'am, at the back, in the center.
When you put on the plastic, do you do it from one end to the other or from side to side?
Okay, so what we do is we go to Verimark sells these very nice rubber mops. So we use rubber mops. We use 3 rubber mops. We put the plastic on one side, and we have 3 guys with a rubber mop, and you just lift the plastic up over until it comes down to the other side. If it's really, really cool, what you can do is you have a light breeze coming onto the tunnel. You take your plastic and you actually spread the plastic in front of the breeze, and the breeze will carry it over. I've only managed to do that. I've put up, I don't know how many tunnels. I've only managed to do that about 3 times. But when it happens and you have people watching, you look like an expert, eh?
So your distance between the netting and this, I see it's different.
Yeah, it was just the way it was put up, yeah. We normally like to try and get it even. It doesn't always happen. The only other thing, I'm feeling this over here on my thumb, every single sharp piece of metal needs to be facing inside. Okay, so once you've put the frame up and your wire on and all of those things, you yourself don't task somebody. Go and check every single joint to make sure that the wire is not facing out. If the wire is facing out, it's going to be a very upsetting mistake.
You only got 3 wires along the length.
Yes.
Okay. Not where the join is.
What joint?
The join between the plastic.
Oh, no, not at all. No. So the wires are just there to make the support of this frame easier. So you could see when I got here, I actually moved this pipe. What the wire does is it helps to hold the pipe where it is, because when the wind blows, this tunnel moves like this. As the tunnel is moving like this, these poles tend to drift. So this wire is there to hold the pipes upright. It's not to support the plastic or anything like that. Yes, ma'am.
The rods that you're using, I missed that. How far do they stick out the ground?
100 mils. It just needs to hold the bottom of the pipe. And the bottom of the pipe, once the plastic is on, the bottom of the pipe's not going anywhere. as long as the peg holds it in place. Excellent, guys. Any other questions?
When do you use total netting or total plastic?
Okay,
Is that a long
very good question. So when do you use total netting and when do you use all plastic? So you can see we've got a whole lot of multi-span netting tunnels. We're taking the multi-span netting tunnels down this year and we're going to convert all of our tunnels back to this. So we will lose at least one bed because actually no, we'll lose about 3 beds because when you put a multi-span on here, you make up, you can actually collapse these beds slightly from a meter to like 800 and you can put another 3 beds in before the next bed. So we'll be losing literally half of our growing space. However, what we found is that the netting, we predominantly grow tomatoes in these tunnels, tomatoes and peppers. And what we found is that the tomatoes are very susceptible to diseases with under netting. So netting, personally, I would look at netting for things like ornamental crops, orchids, things that like a high humidity, ferns, all of those lacquer things. If you're growing food crops like tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, etc., plastic. Yes, sir.
This wire, what millimeter thickness do we
Yeah, it's about that thick. Yeah.
use? Binding wire.
It's the cheapest wire we could buy at the co-op.
It's a roof wire.
Hey?
I was telling it's a roof wire.
It's a roof wire, yes.
Producing a polytunnel is not that difficult. And in line with the introduction, what is important, don't make your polytunnel larger as that your budget allows. Make sure you can make it complete and that you have sufficient money for the plants you want to grow in it. It's important to plan and find advice at extension service or other advisory services and to take those kind of advices very serious. This is today the end of this fifth podcast. Next week, Wednesday, we are back with a next episode of the Farm Future News. And we like to invite you to subscribe, to like this video, and to also to give your friends and your colleagues to the advice to watch this if you like it. If you don't like it, please provide us critique. I love critique because through that we can grow the quality of this channel. I wish you a very pleasant weekend. Thank you.